The story begins in North Carolina. On a cold night, Jeffrey quietly climbs onto the roof of a McDonald's. Using his old tools, he finds a weak spot and slips inside. The next morning, when the manager and two employees arrive, Jeffrey shows them a gun and corners them. But he talks gently and promises he won't hurt anyone. He gives them coats, locks them in the freezer, and even offers his own coat to the manager who doesn't have one. Jeffrey then takes the money from the safe and escapes, slipping past a police car like nothing happened. The movie then jumps 2 years back. Jeffrey is a divorced Army veteran struggling to support his 3 kids. On his daughter's birthday, he gives her one of his old toys, but she doesn't like it. He tells his friend Steve that he can't find a good job because his Army skills don't help in normal life, but Steve reminds him of his real talent. Jeffrey notices tiny details that most people miss. At McDonald's, Jeffrey drops off his kids with their mother, Tana. He promises to become a better person, but Tana has already lost trust in him. Outside, he finds the birthday gift left behind in the car and feels heartbroken. Right then, he sees a repairman climbing onto the McDonald's roof, and a new idea hits him. He walks inside, observes the staff, their routine, and the whole system. And this moment becomes the true beginning of Roofman. Over the next few years, Jeffrey robs 45 McDonald's restaurants using the same method, entering through the roof. Soon the media calls him Roofman. Surprisingly, every employee he ever robbed speaks kindly about him because he never hurts anyone. Police only know his build because he always wears a mask. With the money, life becomes easier. He buys a big TV and plans the perfect birthday party for his daughter Becky. Band, big cake, and the bicycle she always wanted. But Steve starts suspecting him. During the party, the police suddenly arrive. Scared, Jeffrey runs through the neighborhood yards and reaches a hill, but slips and falls. Cops catch him while Becky watches helplessly from far away. After a fast trial, Jeffrey gets 15 years in prison. He tries calling Becky, but learns that Tana has moved on with someone else. She refuses to let Becky talk, and Jeffrey realizes he might never speak to his children again. Hurt and angry, he tears Tana's face from the family photo inside prison. Jeffrey starts working and studying the guards' routines, especially the delivery truck timing. Slowly, he builds a plan. He uses the prison shop to create wooden boards, metal pieces, and modified clothes, everything needed for a perfect escape. One day when the delivery driver gets back into the truck, Jeffrey slides underneath, attaches his wooden board to the frame, and hides behind it. The guard checks under the truck with a mirror. But Jeffrey is so perfectly hidden that he goes unnoticed. And just like that, he escapes the prison. After hours of muddy roads, the driver stops for a bathroom break. Jeffrey quietly slips out, runs toward the woods, removes his prison uniform to reveal normal clothes underneath, and walks to the main road. He gets a ride and heads back toward the city. Jeffrey reaches near his old house and watches Becky riding her bicycle from a distance. But he doesn't go closer. He knows the police could show up any moment. That evening, he calls his friend Steve and asks for help to leave the country. But Steve tells him that his escape is all over the news, so it's safer to stay hidden for now. They agree to talk again after a month. Suddenly, a police car stops nearby. Panicking, Jeffrey looks around and quickly slips into a toy store with a shopping cart, pretending to be a normal customer. After a while, he goes to the bathroom, climbs onto the toilet, and pushes himself into the ceiling. A police officer even checks the bathroom, but doesn't notice him. When the store finally closes, Jeffrey climbs down and checks the security cameras. He studies their angles carefully and moves around the store without being seen. Hungry, he uses a tool to open baby food jars and eats them in the office. He also watches the news to see where the police are searching. When reporters call him violent, he feels hurt because he has never harmed anyone. He hides back in the ceiling and spends the whole day there. The next evening, he finds the store's security manual and learns how to pause the camera recordings. Now he can move freely without getting caught on camera. He collects lots of candy and discovers an empty space behind the bicycle display. He cleans it, brings a mattress and food, and turns it into his new hidden home. Days go by, and Jeffrey learns how to live inside the toy store. He sleeps during the day while customers shop around him. At night, he plays with toys, watches TV, and survives using whatever the store provides. He gets clothes from the donation box and quietly cleans himself in the bathroom. Through the news, he keeps track of the police search and realizes they still haven't given up. One night, he discovers baby monitors on sale and sets them up around the store and office to listen to the staff. He hears an employee, Lee, asking her boss, Mitch, for a weekend off because she's dealing with a divorce and child custody stress. Mitch refuses, and Jeffrey feels bad for her. Using the monitors, he also learns Mitch's password and secretly changes Lee's schedule so she gets her weekend off. Soon the media and police stop caring about Jeffrey. Feeling a little safer, he finally steps outside to watch the 4th of July fireworks. The next day, he changes the lock on the emergency exit so he can enter and leave whenever he wants. He even takes a bicycle from the store, rides to a payphone, and calls Steve. But Steve's girlfriend Michelle answers and tells him Steve has gone to Afghanistan until December. Jeffrey leaves a coded message for him. He then calls his home, but when he hears Becky laughing with her new stepfather, his voice freezes. Tana comes on the line and immediately realizes it's him. She warns him that if he calls again, she'll report it to the police. After the call ends, Jeffrey completely breaks down. The loneliness begins to crush him from inside. That night, Jeffrey hangs a calendar on the wall so he can count the days until Steve returns. But inside, he feels completely hopeless. In frustration, he even punches the toys around him. One day through the baby monitor, he hears Mitch accusing an employee of stealing candy, and he even points at the man's belly as proof. Lee defends her coworker, and Jeffrey suddenly realizes the truth. He was the one who had taken all the candy. Feeling guilty, he quietly returns every piece. The next day, Lee tells Mitch about a charity brunch at her church and hopes he'll donate some toys. Mitch refuses, not even willing to give away the returned toys that can't be sold. As soon as Lee walks away, he throws her flyer in the trash. Seeing her sadness, Jeffrey decides to help on his own. He drops a bag of toys outside the church, but one of the church members spots him and makes him sit through the entire service. Jeffrey spends the whole time watching Lee sing, feeling a strange sense of peace for the first time in months. At the charity brunch, he stays mostly for the food. After all, he's been living on baby food and candy for days. No one recognizes him, so he lies and says his name is John and that he's new in town. Lee is touched by his donation. When people ask about his life, Jeffrey claims he works on classified missions for the government, so he can't share much. Surprisingly, everyone believes him and even invites him to future church events. Lonely and starved for connection, Jeffrey says yes. Later, when he tries brushing his teeth, he groans in pain. The candy has ruined them, so he steals a few video games from the toy store and sells them to pay for a dentist visit. He also grabs better clothes so he doesn't have to wear teenager-style cartoon t-shirts anymore. At the next church event, Jeffrey charms everyone with his calm and polite behavior. One woman who used to work in the police department is surprised to learn that this town has an intelligence unit. Jeffrey smoothly lies again. We're everywhere, just unseen. Every difficult question is answered with the same word: classified. After the event, Lee jokes with the women that maybe John prefers men because he blended in so comfortably with the ladies. Jeffrey quickly denies it, and Lee asks him to go out with her. They walk to a park for their first date, and although Jeffrey feels awkward when she mentions her ex's name was also Jeffrey, they still have a great time. Later, they go to Lee's house and grow close. Lee eventually tells him she has 2 daughters. Jeffrey happily says he wants to meet them. That weekend, he visits her home, where she introduces him to the kids as just a friend from church. He gives little Dee some items from her favorite video game, and she gets so excited she hugs him. But when he tries giving music to the older daughter, Lindsay, she quietly walks away to her room. Jeffrey spends the whole evening playing with Dee, and for the first time in years, he feels like a dad again. Weeks pass, and he keeps dating Lee, attending church events, and bonding with the girls. Dee grows very close to him, but Lindsay continues to ignore him. They even celebrate Halloween together, creating small family moments Jeffrey deeply missed. To pay for all these outings, Jeffrey keeps stealing video games from the toy store and selling them, but the fear of getting caught never leaves him. That's why he finally asks Lee to move to another city with him and start a new life. But Lee firmly says no. Her entire life is here, and she isn't going anywhere. One night, while Jeffrey is washing his face in the toy store bathroom, he suddenly hears a noise. When he peeks outside, he sees Mitch still working late. Jeffrey quietly steps out to grab his clothes, but Mitch spots him and panics. Thinking fast, Jeffrey sets off a fake alarm, making it look like someone ran out the back door, then immediately hides in his secret spot. Mitch calls the police, and officers search the store for hours, but they find nothing. Meanwhile, the police discover the security cameras haven't recorded anything for days. Mitch also reports that video games have been disappearing, so the store needs stronger security now. The news channels start covering the case again, but Jeffrey still continues his church life and doesn't stop seeing Lee. At Thanksgiving dinner, Lee's friends warn her that the toy store thief is still around and she should quit her job. Jeffrey says the thief didn't seem dangerous, but he still agrees Lee should probably leave the job, which everyone finds a bit strange. Lee says the thief must be very desperate if he has to bathe in the store bathroom. Lindsay gets angry and says Lee spends too much time at work and not enough with her family, then storms off. The next day, Jeffrey calls Steve. Michelle answers again and says Steve wants to meet him on Sunday to finalize their escape plan. Later, Jeffrey tries helping Lee and Lindsay make peace, but they end up arguing again. Lindsay is upset because Lee never lets her go out or even learn driving. Jeffrey promises to teach her, and they go test a car. During the test drive, Jeffrey does a few dangerous stunts at high-speed D, and Lindsay are impressed, but Lee is terrified. Jeffrey then pays the salesman in cash so Lindsay can drive on her own. She's nervous but manages to bring everyone back safely. On Sunday, Jeffrey finally meets Steve. Steve asks if he stayed completely hidden and avoided all contact. Jeffrey lies and says yes. Michelle takes his photo with a wig for a fake passport. Steve gives him a new identity and a whole fake background. To escape the country, they need $50,000, money Jeffrey doesn't have. Still, he promises he will find a way. Jeffrey then goes to his old pawn shop and tries to enter through the roof like before. But he miscalculates and falls into the shop next door. Panicking, he tries breaking the wall to reach the pawn shop, but as soon as the wall opens, the alarm goes off. Jeffrey grabs a gun and a police-issue bulletproof vest, then smashes the front door with a heavy statue and escapes back in the toy store. He hides his secret room again by fixing the ceiling panel. Later, he overhears Mitch telling the employees that the next 2 weeks are the holiday rush, the busiest and most profitable time of the year. Security will be tighter, store hours longer, and everyone must work even on Christmas Eve. Mitch posts the new schedule. That night, Jeffrey sneaks out again and changes the schedule, so Lee won't have to work on the day he needs her free. The next day, he shows up at Lee's house with a big Christmas tree, decorations, and a pile of gifts. The whole family goes to church together. Watching Lee sing, Jeffrey gets emotional, almost in tears. On the other side, the next morning, Jeffrey walks into the toy store wearing a mask and holding a gun. He quickly ties up all the employees. When the security guard tries to pull out his weapon, Jeffrey panics and knocks him out hard, and the blood on the floor scares everyone. Jeffrey then forces Mitch to open the safe and remove the ink bombs. But one of the bombs explodes, and blue ink spreads all over Mitch's face. Even then, Jeffrey safely grabs the money bag. On the other side, as he's leaving, one employee shouts that the guard is injured and needs an ambulance. Hearing this, Jeffrey stops for a moment and calls 911 before running away. Because of this delay, Lee reaches the store and sees Jeffrey in the mask. She gets scared and runs out, and Jeffrey escapes through the back door. Police arrive quickly and save the guard's life. This time, the investigation gets much stricter, and the officers even find Jeffrey's hiding spot inside the store. They question Lee, but she says she couldn't recognize the robber because of the mask. On the other side, Jeffrey meets Steve again and gives him all the fake documents and the money for tomorrow's flight to Venezuela. Steve asks if he had anything to do with the robbery shown on TV, but Jeffrey acts innocent. Michelle puts a wig on him for a new passport photo, and Steve reminds him that he must erase all his old records. Forced again, Jeffrey breaks into a dentist's clinic, burns every document, and sets the whole place on fire. On the other side, the next morning, Jeffrey is driving toward the airport when Lee calls him. After thinking for a long moment, he finally stops the car and answers. Lee invites him to her Christmas dinner. Hearing her voice, tears fill Jeffrey's eyes, and he agrees to come. Later that evening, Jeffrey reaches Lee's house with gifts, but it turns out to be a trap. Within minutes, the police surround the house and arrest him. Lee sits inside a police car, crying with guilt. On the other side, Jeffrey is taken back to prison and receives a 32-year sentence. He places Lee's family photo beside his old picture and thinks about all his mistakes. He joins a support group in jail and even starts calling Becky again. Some inmates ask if he plans to escape one more time, but Jeffrey has finally accepted his punishment. On the other side, one day Lee visits him. Jeffrey apologizes, and Lee says she was angry at first, but now she remembers their time together like a strange adventure she will always be thankful for. She also apologizes, and the two share a warm hug. The movie ends by revealing that this story is based on the real criminal Jeffrey Manchester, who tried to escape prison twice, in 2009 and 2017. The real Lee is now remarried and recently visited Jeffrey after many years. He will get a chance for parole in 2036 and currently works as a librarian in prison, and that's the Roofman. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie explanation videos.